black excellence is hard work. Black excellence says you got to be the best version of yourself every day, even when you don't feel like it. Are we really ready for black excellence? Because if we are, that means black excellence also means you don't send a third grader to the psychologist for a special ed evaluation. Well, you know the reason he can't read is because of you. You know the reason he can't read because there's no books in your house. The reason he can't read because he majors in TikTok and he majors in Twitter, he majors in Facebook. He don't major in reading and writing and arithmetic. See, let me be clear. 90% of all the children I've evaluated, and I've evaluated every race, 90% or more, they were never learning disabled. They were lazy disabled. Most of your children are lazy disabled. They can learn how to read. They don't care to learn, and you won't make them.
Nope.
And for my black fathers in the room, I understand you might be addicted to sports. I understand that you wanted to go to the NFL and you might not have made it, and now you want to live vicariously through your sons. There's nothing more selfish than a black father to impose his athletic dreams on his son's ego. If that boy don't want to be a football player, there's nothing wrong with that. If he don't want to be a basketball player, there's nothing wrong with that. You had your life. Let your son live his. Because after all, the only people benefiting from black men going to the NFL are poor white women. They put the wives and they take all the money. So how is this control? There will be no NFL or NBA. Because we're not benefiting from the NFL or NBA. Not only that, only 1% of all only 1% of all high school athletes will become professional. Only 1%. Your son has a greater chance of being struck by lightning than becoming a millionaire through professional sports. I'm not saying kill his dream. Don't take his dream, but make sure he got a plan B if plan A doesn't follow him. See, the problem with us is we let Raheem think he's absolutely going to make it no matter what. Problem with us, we let little Mike think he's going to absolutely make it no matter what. And then the sports coaches and the principal and the dean of students and the classroom teacher, they all collaborate in Raheem's low expectations. He don't have the grades to graduate, but we're going to keep him on the football field anyway. He ain't got the grades to graduate, but we're going to keep him on the basketball court anyway. And once we're done sucking all his athletic talent, we send him right to the local jail. Brothers and sisters, we can talk about what racism does to black children all day long, but we also have to talk about what black people do to black children all day long. If I go to your house right now, do you have a dictionary with more than 100 pages in it? If I go to your house right now, is there an encyclopedia, an entire set, A through Z? If I go to your house right now, is there a thesaurus in there for the children? If I go to your house right now, is there a bookshelf in there for those children? Is there any place in your house where a child can sit and think in peace and quiet and do some homework? See, in 1808, America outlawed the importation of enslaved Africans. So if America outlawed the importation of enslaved Africans in 1808, how did America get more slaves from 1808 to 1865? You know how? They moved from an importation system to a slave breeding system. And so from 1808 to 1865, the way they got more slaves was by slave houses, breeding farms. They get one black man, a dozen of black women, and his job was to keep them pregnant year round. As soon as she dropped the baby, and her womb was able to take another, his job was to keep her pregnant. And the whole purpose of the slave breeding farm was to do what? Make sure the white power structure had enough slaves to fulfill the economic objectives of its system. Well, guess what? Many of your homes are slave breeding farms right now. Some of you are breeding slaves for the prison. Some of you are breeding slaves for special ed. Some of you are breeding slaves for psychiatric medication. I'm trying to understand why so many black boys in the state of Maryland are diagnosed with conduct disorder. I'm trying to understand why so many black boys in the state of Maryland are diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, emotional disturbance. Why is it so many black boys in your state taking Adderall, Concerta, Medicaid, Vyvanse, and the list, Ritalin, and the list goes on? The same drugs that sent his father to jail. You can give it to him so he can sit still to learn long enough about Helen Keller, Anne Frank, and Christopher Columbus. Something's wrong with that. Black boys don't need drugs to learn. The black boy can learn as well as any other child. He don't need a special school. He don't need a special curriculum. The problem with the black boy is he's treated in a special way. Yes. Don't focus on him. Focus on the way the school treats him. Don't focus on him. Focus on the way the white teachers treat him. Don't focus on him. Focus on the way the superintendent and the school board treat him. Nothing's wrong with the black boy. The problem is in the way people engage our sons. And then they convince us that something's wrong with him. And many of you buy into that nonsense. I am so disgusted at how easy public and charter school can make you Negroes sign your name so your child can get a misdiagnosis. I'm so disgusted at how easy it is to get a black mother or father to put their child on crack cocaine called Adderall, crack cocaine called Ritalin, crack cocaine called Concerta. The drugs you give your child are no different than the ones we sell on street corners. The Drug Enforcement Agency of America qualifies Ritalin as a Schedule B drug. Ritalin is just as dangerous as opium and heroin, and you give it to your son 3 times a day. Don't fix him, fix the school he goes to. I'm trying to understand. Frederick Douglass escaped from slavery to freedom from this state. Harriet Tubman escaped from slavery to freedom in this state. Henry Highland Garnett, one of the grandfathers of Pan-Africanism, escaped from slavery to freedom in this state. Taught himself how to read. Frederick Douglass taught himself how to read. Harriet Tubman was too busy. I don't think she ever learned how. But help me understand how we come from ancestors who could have lost their life learning how to read. But yet they learned anyway. But yet your son got books, laptop, cell phone, computer, and he needs special help in order to learn. His ass is lazy. But if it was up to me, we would diagnose children. We diagnose their parents. He's not reading disabled. His mother and father is reading disabled. He ain't ADHD. His mother and father is ADHD. So let me give you a couple of rules you need to use in the schools. Rule number 1, if your child is 9 years old or younger, you better think twice before you give permission for anybody to test them. I don't ever want to see a 5-year-old reading disabled child. I don't ever want to see another 6-year-old math disabled child. I don't want to see another 7-year-old intellectually disabled child. How can you determine that a 5, 6, or 7-year-old is reading disabled or intellectually disabled when they haven't even done developing intellectually yet? Yeah. But the reason the school wants you to put them in special ed is they want to get that money. Yep. They want that money. Special ed is a business. Special ed is a bank. Special ed is a hustle of making money off black kids whose parents don't care enough to make them learn themselves. I'm giving you the facts of the situation. And the charter schools ain't too much better. Some of the charter schools are worse than the public schools themselves. Because charter schools are more dependent on special ed money because they don't get all the extra incentive dollars that the public schools get. Stop getting them evaluated. Go get a tutor. If your son has trouble reading, get him a tutor. Your daughter has trouble with her arithmetic, get her a tutor. But when you put them in special ed, you now give the system permission to intentionally miseducate your child. It is an academic holocaust. Black children are suffering from an academic holocaust. But you know what makes it so bad? I can't put them in special ed unless you sign your name 4 times. You had to sign your name 4 times before that child got put in special ed. You signed the evaluation permission form for me, the school psychologist, to evaluate the test. Signature number 1. Signature number 2, you had to sign that you agreed with my psychological evaluation report. Signature number 3, you had to sign the IEP, Incarceration Preparation Program. And then signature number 4, you had to sign the special ed service agreement. So I don't ever want to hear a black parent in Maryland talk about Dr. Umar, they put my child in special ed. They said my child was reading disabled. They said she was ADHD. They said he needed medication. Don't tell me what they said. Tell me what you did. Because without your signature, there ain't no testing. Without your signature, there ain't no IEP. Without your signature, there's no special education at all. How many of you have a reading hour in your homes at night, every night, where everything gets turned off and the brain gets turned on and there's a book in your hands? I can't remember the last time I went into a black house and they had a bookshelf. Social media is the worst thing to happen to black children. I thought the video games were bad. I thought the video games were bad. Social media is worse than the video game because they never get off. Even when you send them to bed, they still on their phone. And because some of you forgot that your job was to be a parent instead of a friend, you're more concerned with being liked by your child than raising your child.